Um, so good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. Welcome to the meeting. We do have the live stream up and running now. So I'm just going to run through the list of participants that we have with us. So I confirm with Allison here now, we do have quorum. And all committee members are present with the exception of Councillor Bohm, who sent his regrets, as well as Charles Foreman is not with us at the moment. So staff present with us tonight is Julie Fawcett, Manager, Marketing and Public Engagement. Elizabeth Fawcett is our host this evening, as well as myself, Julie McCarty-Jansman, Committee Clerk. We have no members of the public with us at the moment. So Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to you to begin the meeting.
Thank you. I saw before the meeting we have an addendum to the agenda. So I printed the previous version. So bear with me if I make the mistake, but I believe that Donna Gillespie is not with us tonight. And Megan Knott, that was scheduled for the May meeting, is not attending this meeting either. So we have no delegations. Oh. So knowing with the addendum of the agenda, could we have the approval of the agenda? I ask for someone to put the motion forward and then someone to second it. I still don't have the word right. So John for putting the motion forward and Councillor Ushra for seconding it. No, I still don't get it.
If you say it with a French accent, it lends more gravity. Say second.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll have to forgive my accent. It seems to be particularly strong tonight.
It's all good.
Okay, so confirmation of the minutes. So we're going back to the minutes of March 10th, 2021 to be approved. Now that sounds like a while ago. So may I have someone to pass a motion of approval for the minutes? Allison, thank you. And someone to second it? John? Thank you. All those in favor, please show your hand. Thank you. Excellent. Now with practice, I'll get to it. So we are moving all the way to the briefings with Ms. Julie Fawcett. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. And we'll be talking about the communications and customer experience update. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Just gonna get my screen set up here. There we go. Okay, super. Thank you. Very nice to meet all of you. And I just wanted to say thank you for having me. And the purpose of this, the short presentation is to provide some examples related to the Communications and Customer Experience Update Report. It has been some time since our last update, and there have been some changes to our work, particularly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. So a wide variety of tactics and channels are used to make a best effort to reach as many residents as possible. And certainly the goal of communications is to inform residents not only about city news and updates, but also public engagement opportunities. We work in partnership with every single city department to communicate with residents using a variety of methods. Next slide, please. So we really try to meet people where they are, including providing service in person, online, or over the phone. And this is in keeping with the city's commitment to serve residents. So customer experience provides these services, and the customer experience agents offer first point of contact support for customers requesting information or assistance to everything that the city provides. Next slide, please. So these two divisions, communications and customer experience, work together to create a continuous feedback loop between the city and residents. This is really important because we're pushing out information through our communications, and we want to make sure that whatever we're pushing out is really resonating with our residents. We really make sure that we work really closely together, and we certainly want to offer quality service delivery for all residents across multiple channels of interaction. Next slide, please. So now I'll actually offer some concrete examples of how we're doing some of this work in our community. Next slide, please. So owned media. So what is this? Owned media means tactics that the city creates and disseminates ourselves. So some examples of this may include email updates, website updates, and mailed items such as tax bill inserts. As well, the city posts content to widely visited sites that many of us are familiar with, such as LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we also respond to inquiries on those platforms as well. Next slide, please. We're also always looking for new ways to reach residents. So this is certainly top of mind. One example that's pretty new is the Tell Me More podcast. And this podcast can actually be downloaded and then listened to, on your phone anywhere you are. We're actually just released our 4th episode. And this is a little snapshot here of an episode that was released last month featuring the Third Crossing naming campaign and staff member Jennifer Campbell. I highly recommend this podcast. It's very good. Next slide, please. So many of you have probably seen these outdoor signs. They have proved to be very flexible and effective and can be posted throughout urban, suburban, and rural areas. This is an example that shares the website for the City of Kingston COVID page, which we've used fairly regularly throughout the past year. Next slide, please. Print media is very important and is used on a weekly basis, including an ad in the free weekly publication Kingston This Week. Specialty publications are also used when appropriate. And here is a snapshot from one of our weekly ads that we have that are free to residents. And this is driving people to sign up for our COVID-19 email newsletter. Next slide, please. So for public engagement, it's important to offer a variety of ways for residents to offer feedback. So as you can see from the screenshot from Get Involved Kingston, residents can submit feedback online or email the individuals directly. Customer experience agents can always receive feedback in person or by phone. So that would mean that if you wanted to, fill in a survey and you didn't have internet access, you can always call customer experience and they will actually walk you through that process over the phone or in person. Next slide, please. So as many of us are aware, virtual engagement was introduced last year and has helped to offer opportunities for participation to residents. If members of the public don't have broadband access, they are able to participate by phone, and the sessions are captioned and uploaded to YouTube if they want to watch them at another time. Next slide, please. So Contact Us is offered Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and counter services have been expanded to complement City Hall with 4 additional customer service hubs. This includes Artillery Park, the Invista Center, Rideau Heights Community Center, and the soon-to-be open Kingston East Community Center. Next slide, please. And this is a photo of one of our customer experience agents, Marguerite, from her desk at the British Wig building, answering queries via email or phone. Next slide, please. Online service has improved recently with an expanded customer relationship management system, and this centralized place allows self-serve options and a record of interactions with city departments. This is really important because if I call or email someone with a question and it's logged through our customer relationship management system, it allows various people to be able to actually action that item and then close it out so that the resident has a record of that interaction, which is really, really important. Next slide, please. So I welcome any feedback or suggestions to ensure we continue to improve our services to residents, and certainly any input that you have tonight or any time to help us reach rural residents. I would love to hear from you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So I will open up the conversation and the discussion for comments and questions from members of the committee. Hi, Charles. Right on time.
So, Madam Chair, I will put a question right to Julie. Yeah, I think it's been a marked improvement. We saw it especially with the open air fire bylaw and getting rid of the option where you could only pay a fee to get a permit. But I'm wondering though, what are the repercussions for a member of city staff who just doesn't act on requests or ignores it or sends a cursory reply and doesn't follow up? Because really, like this is all in the interest of accountability, but accountability without any substance behind it is really just lip service.
So I certainly can't respond to anyone specifically, but I do know there has been through customer experience. So Natalie Lacan Elwood is the manager of that group. They have really, really prioritized trying to log service requests through the customer relationship management system and to try to close those within 3 business days if possible. And they also have they added a customer survey in, I believe it was Q2 of 2020, to try to make sure that whenever something is closed, that the customer can actually respond and say, how was their service? And the results from that survey are actually acted upon. So that survey actually helped, Natalie and her team actually look at actioning some of the challenges. So I can certainly have Natalie provide some of the for this group. But I think it's a really, really important question and something that certainly I can provide that afterwards. And, it's a very big priority for us to be able to get back to people as soon as we can with the correct answer if possible.
These questions are always shaped by my military experience, where there's a level of anonymity in large organizations. Do you guys have any managerial authority through other departments to recommend disciplinary or administrative measures against employees who just ignore citizens?
I'm not aware of how that would work. I can certainly look back to that, but I do know that certainly we try to do our best to get back to individuals, as public servants, we try to get back to people as soon as possible. But again, I can certainly look into that and report back to the committee on, how the operations would work internally.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I think that that opens up the conversation around the complaint policy and procedures of the city of Kingston and the absence of a response and the ability to put forward a complaint to some regard. So it opens a conversation in a different sphere. But to me, it led me, and if it's okay that I ask my questions now, because it really builds on that point, John, that you made with your first question about the business standards and practices in responding to inquiries. And I noted in the report that was written that there is the implementation of a CRM, so a customer relationship management system, which I believe is it's quite a meaningful undertaking. I can anticipate that taking a year to implement. Like, where are you with the implementation of it? How has it been working for you? Because as I understand these type of ERP systems, it can be quite a meaningful undertaking.
So, and thank you, Madam Chair. So myself, as the Manager of Marketing and Public Engagement, I have not been responsible for the implementation of the customer relationship management system. It has been part of our department, but certainly one of the main reasons that we had that was in order to have a database where we can actually be able to respond to queries in a more, tracked way and more rapidly and more accurately. So this has been undergone for a few years, and I think it's an ongoing process. I think we're always trying to improve. We're trying to make sure that the self-service portal for individuals is always getting better, and this is certainly a major priority at the city. But I would say certainly from what I've seen is that it's a priority, and the departments are getting on board and doing a really good job in responding to these queries very seriously, because we want to make sure that as customer experience and communications that we can actually provide the correct information to our residents. And it's very important as well to provide, if people aren't comfortable using the self-serve portal, that they are able to go in person to talk to someone obviously depending on guidelines around the pandemic, or that they can call someone and be able to find out, where in the track of their query, when will that actually be answered.
So in addition to that CRM, in terms of functionality, I'm wondering, because it is some sort of a database, you have quite knowledgeable information generated through the system, can generate reports. So you're able to see the recurrence of certain requests, for example, through themes or the frequency of certain issues arising with the city. Do you have the ability to filter and sort that from, the rural versus urban perspective, perhaps even also the language of choice for citizens to be represented upon? So French interaction, English interaction, stuff like that. So just curious to know what degree of information you have in that data, if you are using that data to build future communication, things like FAQs and posters, because we know that we've received 500 inquiries last year about tick management or things like that. So just curious to know how you're using that database to inform future and current communication strategies.
Well, that's a great question. And certainly in my experience, we have a weekly meeting where we actually, hear from the customer experience team to understand, what some of their queries might be. And so, for example, we would say, maybe one of the staff would say, oh, last week or the past 2 weeks, we've had a lot of queries about, recycling. And we're wondering if maybe there's something that we're not doing. So it really helps because we're able to actually look at the data generated from the customer relationship management system and then actually adjust our communications to, address issues like, maybe we need some more tick education, as you said, or something like that. So it's a really valuable, when I talked in the presentation about that feedback loop, it's so important because as communications, we're pushing out information, but what's equally important is understanding from people, what are they wondering about? What are they confused about? What questions do they have? And then we can then respond and adjust those communications plans and tactics. So I think that's something that's very, very valuable. And certainly the more data we have through this system, the better we can actually customize, how we're sharing messages, what messages we're sharing, and kind of to whom we're targeting those. So yes, thank you. That very, very good question. It's been really valuable tool for us to use.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, I think the use of data is really the present and the way of the future to understand the needs. But we also know that most often than not, people will reach out to the city because there's an issue, there's a challenge, or there's a complaint of some sort. There's something that hasn't been done. So I fully realize that perhaps you may not have a lot of praises through the system. So while realizing that, I'm wondering if there is any interest or desire or feasibility in sharing some of that data or information in the aggregate format with us, so that the committee can build its own knowledge around what is the rural type of things that arise through the customer experience perspective. So if you do have this type of information through the CRM and it can generate reports, so I'm speculating here because I haven't seen your system, right? So speculating that you have access and you can generate reports, what does it look like? Who are our rural citizens and what are they complaining about? I don't want to say complaining, but what are the inquiries that they're putting forward? I think that would be really valuable for us to keep our finger on the pulse of the rural life to some regard as a rural committee.
Well, I can certainly bring that back to the team and hopefully at a future meeting, provide, maybe there's a dashboard that can be shared, or that's really great to have insights into, some of the, as you said, queries or the needs of that community specifically. So I can certainly work with my team to find out what options are there for reporting. And I think it's great to have others interested in this data because we live and breathe it. It's really important to us. So I think it would be welcome to be able to share it with you and your committee.
That would be wonderful, and it could help us. It could help inform us of our own annual work plan that we put together. Where annually we love to keep the winter road maintenance update on our meeting agenda, but what if this is not really what people want to talk about? What if there's something else that arises through your lens that might be something that can really inform this group moving forward as well? So I think there's a lot of opportunities, but I'll let you discuss that with your team, hoping that we can connect again, because I think this could really be a fantastic tool to move forward. But now I'll let other people of the committee speak. Councillor Usharov, I saw your hand, please.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Chair. Thank you, Julie, for your presentation, and good questions all around. Jose, I think you're reading over my shoulder here or something. Those are great questions because of course, Julie, and as a committee, we obviously have a rural lens here through everything. And I think that through both of my terms so far, that's the biggest challenge is communicating with the rural area. And we have the broadband gap, so and the shortfall of high speed, so it's part of our life and most of us accept it. But it's obviously really, as Jose has said, what are we learning, what are some of our successes, and how we communicate with the rural community. And obviously the signboards have been something that I have heard anyways. It's still good. You're coming up all the arteries heading north, and every one of them can be covered, and west, east as well. I hope that John sees them on his way home, and also Jose, you head east as well. And so Allison and I see it regularly in Shannon's Corners. Rock Road is Highway 38, and so I think there's a couple more. So I think that's been a success for us. But I think that is, I want to just reiterate Jose's thoughts there. What are we learning, and what are the concerns that you're hearing? So that'll be really good data for us. And what did I write here as you were talking? Yeah. So what is working? That's really something that we want to keep focusing on as a committee, because and hearing from you guys, because I commend you all for the work you're doing. And to John's question, if there is a concern, I'm happy, John, to help you as well. If there is an obvious blockage somewhere, I know this department a little bit that Julie's part of, and I know the intention is to be successful, and I can't imagine any one individual would not be doing their job. So I will speak highly of them, because I believe they are doing a great job, and though I guess there could always be a problem. I wanted to ask a really dumb question, Julie, because I'm probably your average. I'm not dumb with a computer, but I don't even know where to go if I go on the homepage of the city and find that podcast, for example. Like, if I go to the city of Kingston, I know it's probably not the right time, but the fact is I don't know where to go. Even though you said it's a podcast, I don't think I could find it. So what clues do you give to say, this is what you do? This is how simple is it for a rural resident like me to actually, I'd love to see that podcast.
So certainly that's not a dumb question. And I would suggest that, there's many ways to find information. Certainly the search bar in the website is always really great. So if one wanted to go put in, podcast, look up that. Another thing that we, try to encourage many of our residents to do is to sign up for our email newsletters. And email is great because, everyone usually is checking their email. If you don't have access to a computer on a regular basis, maybe you'll be able to check it on your phone. But we have a City Matters email newsletter that goes out every second week. We also have our COVID-19 bulletin that goes out typically every week. So any new news, such as a podcast release or something, would typically be in there. So I think some of these questions are really important. We have a lot of information that we're putting out on the daily basis, particularly during the pandemic, and it's not always easy to find what you're looking for. So some of these kind of questions, and maybe helping us be able to make it easier or residents like yourself who would like to find the podcast is really valuable feedback.
Yeah, so I did just what you said. I guess I'm revealing that I'm not super confident, but I'm not. I just punched in City of Kingston podcast, and then it gives me some links here. So maybe, but I could not find it just surfing the Kingston site. So okay, I mean, maybe we as that's again some information that we can try to look at. How easy is that? So. To do those things. So is there any other, like the rural lens is so important for us and for myself as a counselor, do you have, like I just saw that one picture of the farm, do you have anyone there who's from the rural area and kind of relates in a media mentality? Because I think the rural area is, I don't want to say it's forgotten, but we're so urban centric, and I would really want to encourage you, if one person has got some country blood in them who really does get what we're about, wouldn't that be great if you could embed that in your work, a rural component, which is the largest area of the city, and we're learning a significant contributor to the city. Is there room for more?
Well, certainly. So yeah, I'm from a rural community myself, and we do have at least one individual on our team who lives in rural Kingston as well. It's so valuable, so important to understand. I guess too, I know during the pandemic, it's very challenging when often in rural communities, in-person gatherings are such an important part of kind of who we are, that's really challenging to be able to, if you can't share news with each other in person, how do we do that? Particularly if there's challenges accessing, through broadband. So I agree. I think having someone that can say, oh, I saw a poster, at this grocery store, or, I know there's this event coming up, or maybe we should have a booth at a fair. I think that lens is really important. But I would also say that anytime, if there's an opportunity for us to listen from this group and learn about new opportunities, we're happy to do that. And I know a lot of people who live in the rural Kingston come into town, which is great. But I also want to make sure that we're able to meet people where they are. So I guess I would just kind of leave the door open for any ideas, but to also say that we certainly do have people around the team that understand, some of the advantages of why people, choose to live in rural Kingston. It's pretty great.
Yeah, that's great. And so I guess that's what I encourage this committee to really get the right messages to you. If not tonight, then certainly as we move forward, we can always access your email and continue the conversation. But certainly want to encourage, and I know you do, and I want to continue to keep that up, that the rural area is a really important part of the fabric of all that we're doing. Thanks.
Perfect. I don't know if any other committee member has any question or comments. Seeing none, I do want to thank you for being with us tonight. Julie, thank you for coming back after the May 26th meeting and for such a rigorous presentation. I can say that I personally really enjoy the Get Involved page. It makes things so easy to keep, to stay aware of what's going on and what are the projects going on that I would otherwise not be aware of. So I do want to give, that type of feedback of saying, like, for me personally, this has been something that I've found extremely useful. So congratulations for such a successful initiative from my perspective. And I do hope to see you again with a little bit of data and information, if that is at all possible, knowing that we're not looking for praises. We know you're doing a good job and that this is not where we're going to find it. So just knowing kind of what are the things arising that we can keep on our radar so that we can have more discussions around these items and those issues coming up. So typically now we would close the conversation from this briefing, and we would open it up again through the business item to allow members of the public to ask questions. But I don't believe we have any attendees from members of the public. So seeing that, I think this closes the conversation entirely. And so thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was a pleasure to meet all of you. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. So that opens up the conversation perfectly to our Rural Advisory 2020 report card. So we did discuss a little bit of the work plan, where we want to go. So now we're looking in the past, looking backward as what we've accomplished throughout the difficult year of the pandemic. So I believe that this report card, I'm not sure if it's being presented, Elizabeth, or if it's just open for discussion based on the report we've received.
Madam Chair, there's no presentation. It's just a summary of, like you said, what the committee accomplished over the last year. So if any committee members have, comments or questions, this would be the time they can ask about it.
Perfect. Thank you for confirming that. So that would be page 7 to page 9 of the report. I'm looking at the previous agenda, so my apologies. I might have the pages wrong here in comparison to others, but I can go through the main points of the at the bottom of page 8 of some of the elements that we've encountered in 2020. So we discussed a Smart Kingston update, the Rural Advisory Committee 2020 work plan, the Kingston Solar LP Samsung Renewable Energy Project Community Benefit Program, consultation regarding cultural programming opportunities in rural areas of Kingston, rural employment land strategy and economic recovery plan update, open air burning proposal, the draft of rural Kingston economic strategy, and the animal bylaw. And so I'm kind of surprised because I might be thinking too much in the past. I recall discussing, the rural road maintenance in the winter and the fall, the brush cutting. I remember some conversations that we had around, what was it? The water flood that was before. So I think I've been here too long. I'm mixing, my memory is getting all confused, but we did tackle on a fair bit in 2019. So seeing these issues, we know, I believe it was 2019, we discussed broadband, and we knew we wanted to keep this on our radar. So it is on the outlook for 2021. So yeah.
Which
Any
is,
thoughts?
yeah, and the roads, we did do the roads, Jose. Roads is always on our agenda, and certainly we have that, yes.
Perfect. Yeah, my memory gets all fogged up. I think 2019, 2020 has been a vague memory.
For all of us. Agree.
Yes, it's been a time warp. So I just want to weigh in on the first bit of the report, really, because I've been, it's been 18 months now since I've been on this committee. And so we've got the Rural Advisory Committee is an advisory committee that reports directly to council. But from what I can tell and what I've experienced so far, it seems that really what we're doing 100% of the time is being reported to by various city departments about various strategies and about various, operational activities they do. And then I note that this summary is addressed to us, the members, from you, Madam Chair. So aside from the fact that we have 2 councillors on the committee to kind of serve as a direct link, do we think that it's possible or advisable, there we go, to send a report to the city council and say, this is what the Rural Advisory Committee advises to the city council concerning the rural area of the city, and do that on an annual basis?
That is an excellent point. I think what happened in 2020 was that there were no motions passed to bring items up to council for their discussion and decisions. If there would have been motions, I believe they would have been part of this report. So I think 2020 might have been particular in that sense, where there were, as you mentioned, most of the discussions were, we were reported to, and then we provided questions and feedback, to which point we often ask people to come back, to work a little bit and then come back. So typically things like that might require motions, typically, but we have been so fortunate in that city staff are interested and they always agreed on our invitation. So we didn't have to force their hand with a rigid motion. They were always willing to come back to us. So fortunately for us, it gives a report that doesn't really have that sense or that essence, but it's something that could be. Now I'm inviting Janet to jump in here to know if that is valid at all. Because there might be some more truth, or some more depth than what I'm saying. But I believe that perhaps with 2021, with more active discussions on broadband, which is really, and the Smart Kingston, some of these things might open up for more motions to be put forward. Also knowing if we can come back with data on the customer experience, that might change a little bit of of what we're doing as well. Councillor Usharov, please.
Yeah, no, thanks, Josie. I knew you'd do a good job. Well, it's hard, John, to answer. I'm certainly not going to defend what we do. I mean, I think that I don't know if it's been 18 months since we've seen you, but it's really important to know that all of the topics, whether it's Smart Kingston, work plan, the solar, the cultural opportunities, employment, lands, economic strategy, we've had input in it. So it's part of our work plan. And so the role of our committee is to provide that input. And that's why, obviously it's so I think this committee is actually more involved now than it's ever been under Jose's leadership too, and under the current present members. I'm really, really positive about that, and I think that I would like to see it even more. But I'm really excited about what we can do as a committee, and certainly as a representative for the rural area. This is one of my. I wouldn't have to. I'm not sure what it would take for me to miss this meeting, even though I guess I have once. But very rare, because there is so much opportunity. Can we do better as a committee? I think we can. But when we have as much input as possible, when we attend, when we get involved, and when Jose calls an emergency meeting, I only hope for better and for more. But I believe that we've turned a corner, this committee, and it can be involved in so many. I think I hear it from Janet. I hear it from other members of the city, how pleased they are to see the role we're starting to gain and be involved with. So there is a lot more to do. I do, as a counselor, I feel very lonely sometimes. It's a big area and there's so much to do. It's completely full time for me. It's 100% of my time. And but I value you people and what we're doing. And, I would love to see us have some kind of roundtable more often. I'm not even sure how we could do that. It's probably not allowed by the city bylaws, but I would love to have a committee like this to be like an advisory to me, but I'm not sure that's allowed. Go ahead.
Please, Allison. Thank you, Councillor Shroff.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on your request for data within the outreach to get more information about what the customer experience is, and that could very much shape and guide what work we do here on the Advisory Council. But further to that, just something that I felt we didn't get a lot of information on, and it's a pretty important concept and rural economic development. And I remember the presentation, and I don't know if it was sort of between 2019 and 2020 when we had that presentation, and I think it might have been, but there was a mention once upon a time about rural business parks, and I don't feel we have enough information on some things, such as getting feedback through the customer experience and finding out what people are asking questions about. But that particular issue might provoke a motion from this council if we had more information. And I would really love to see more information, because there was some pretty big ideas thrown around. We were reported to on that topic, but there hasn't been any follow-up. And I think it's such an important issue that impacts so many aspects of people's lives living in the rural area that I think, it might solicit or provoke a motion from this group, but we need more information, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely love hearing that, because on the outlook of 2021, we kept at a very prominent space the rural economic development strategy. So I'm hoping that when this comes in the next little while, so 2021 is only here for another 6 months. So in the next 6 months, we might have more movement on that front, and perhaps we have to be very intentional and meaningful in how we read the report and the comment we provide, and seek opportunities to perhaps pass motions in a way that would serve our rural community best. I think reflecting back, and that is a point that I think, Allison, you've raised on a few occasions, of collaboration or synergies with Frontenac County. I think not necessarily stakeholders engagement activities, but some sort of keeping that on our radar of, building friendship so that we can leverage on each other's strengths and opportunities, because there are a lot. So I know from discussions with city staff, we are very well served. So I do want to give full credit. We are very well represented with city staff, and some of the things that they have been doing is getting or trying to find ways to get the city of Kingston on some rural provincial tables of discussions, for example, or certain things like that. So constantly looking for opportunities. So things might move, but I think with COVID, everything slowed down. So I think there's a little bit of a lag that we're kind of carrying forward. But let's keep our eye on that rural economic development strategy conversation. And I think that the broadband conversation and the Smart Kingston update are going to be very, very good for us. I hope that helps. Yes, Councillor Schroff.
Yeah, no, I appreciate Allison's question. There's lots. So really what we need to do, and that's our challenge, is that we really only have the moment in time that it's introduced to get a taste of what's going on, and a fulsome discussion is sometimes hard to have. And I agree, but I'm certainly available. I mean, I'd do a town hall on it, on that topic. We did a broadband. I'd do a town hall on rural economic strategy and how we got there, Allison, and what it means, and making sure we understand that it's not a full-blown, there's nothing scary, I believe, within that. I mean, you're part of it. You're an example of rural economic development, your business. So it is so important to me. John's part of it. I'm part of it. Charles is part of it. So I'm certainly but I would like to know how this committee, Jose, how we could keep it on the work platform, so that it comes up again and we can get updates, and then maybe we can have an education time of what, and then we have input too. A new director is coming. We're supposed to have a rural economic director of what that, working with innovation, part of our Kingston economic development, and then we'll see just where it fits and how it comes together and what it looks like for our community. That's very important, because the unknown can feel, oh, what are we doing, right? But once we are all aware and we're on.
Sorry, I'm keeping myself on mute for as long as possible, because Big Ted has lots of commentary on what we're talking about here. But So I will start by speaking to the point that you just said. Yes, I move that we send this report to City Council as an accurate summary of the activities of the Rural Advisory Committee for 2020. But then my next question is, after we have taken care of this motion, can I come back to a discussion point?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's continue with the motion, and then we can continue on a sideline conversation on our vision for the outlook of 2021 to supplement that, so we have clear direction. Can I have someone to second the motion? I'll get it one day. Charles, thank you. All those in favor, please show your hand. Excellent. So that motion has passed. This report card will be submitted to council. Now, closing this conversation and bringing it back to our own self-assessment. John, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you to my fellow committee members for their input. So really what I'm getting the sense of is, of course, the countryside district is massive, like obscenely massive, I would say. For one person to cover relative to the geographic space of the other districts of our city, it's silly, I think. So I'm wondering if this committee can lend horsepower, perhaps, by having this report to council. Because I understand this difference between things we move to get done and motions that get introduced. But it's almost, and I understand how we hit upon our work plan and say to city staff what we would like more information on. But could there be, I don't know, more of a feedback loop where council also says to us, we're not just going to put it all on our single countryside councillor. We've got this whole committee here. We city council would like to know from the committee what's going on out there. Although I welcome other members to weigh in on this, because as I'm saying this, I'm thinking that
We lost him.
perhaps that little.
John, I think we lost you for a little bit. Do you mind repeating the last few sentences, if you recall them?
Did you get the part where I said, sorry, where did you have me last?
The feedback loop, having council also speaking to us in a way to alleviate some of the burden or the intensity on the councillors' requirements or.
Right, yeah. So this is, it's a bit of a, I hope, eliminating the risk of the tail wagging the dog, as we used to refer to it in the military. Are we kind of being just pushed along with the reports that city staff are able to provide? Or are we able to get city council to feedback to us what things they would like to know about?
Thank you. I saw Janet coming in. Councillor Schroff, I don't know if you were responding to John or if you, yeah.
Well, I want to hear Janet first on
Okay,
this.
please.
I know what she'll say already.
Sounds good. Okay, Janet, please jump in.
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I'm participating from my phone, and I'm just not quite as quick on the Zoom controls through the phone app. In terms of feedback from council, of course, the committee does report to Kingston City Council. Anything that that City Council would like to have referred to the committee, they are certainly able to do that. So it is a two-way street. And anything that has to come, anything that comes to committee comes with a recommendation from the committee for council approval. So if there was something that council was considering and they felt that there was feedback from the rural community needed, they could always refer something to the committee if they chose.
Thank you, Janet. Councillor Ustroff, please.
Yeah, Janet, and I'll need you here for, one of the things, I think I understand where John's going, but the mandate for the committee is always what we look to. And there are times where I've thought the mandate is maybe not, but a little bit handcuffing for us as a committee. And so, but it is passed by council, and there's a very somewhat rigid guidelines for us of where we may go with it, with that mandate. And maybe it's something that we could review. So is that a role of our committee? Can we actually review our mandate? And if we wanted to add to it, how would we do that, Janet?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's certainly within the right of the committee to request a review of their mandate. It would, it would be additional work for staff. It would necessitate, a review of rural advisory committees in other, in other communities and that sort of thing. Public engagement, so on and so forth. But this is the reason why the work plan is brought to the committee.
Yes. Yes.
And it's there for the committee to review, amend, and approve. So if there are things that the committee would like to see added to the work plan, that's what you should do.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for that, Janet. And through the chair, sorry, Jose, that is really something that I think might be something that we could explore, or I think Janet and through John Bolognoni, if there's a way to fit it in with the current mandates, particular topics that we need to examine more, or that are important to us in the rural area, we will find a way to fit them in. I know Janet will, I know John will, and so that's really important to council as well. We're a large geographic area, but we're the very similar every councillor has very close to, I think 12 councillors have about 10 to 12,000 residents. So, and so that's not it's possible for one, but it is a lot of work for sure. It's good. But I do like to maybe talk to you, John, further about some of that, and maybe with Jose sometime to see a little more substance to what you're saying, and how that might fit, Jose, in any ways, because we want this committee to be as fulsome as possible. And with no, I don't think it's right to say that we take it from council. We have every opportunity to bring on all the topics, but recommendations or motions, and that's really what we will do as we work with more substance and have more input. I envision that for sure.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, I think there is some merit in considering the very fluid work of city staff, and that, sometimes I'm sure there are things that are discussed at council that they are shipping things our way, right? Or they are directing certain things to come at our table for discussion, and city staff is always so very smooth as making that happen that we might not see what goes on behind the scenes, the same way that we sometimes push things forward, or kind of in the advisory capacity of when someone comes to us and we provide these comments and questions, and they go back and they rework that piece before going back to council. But we might have had a really big impact there that we might not necessarily be aware of or knowledgeable of it in a tangible sense, but it is very present. Janet, please.
Chair, I think it's also important for the committee to remember that it's not just items on the work plan that have been brought to the committee in recent years. So there have been a lot of what I would say maybe are unsolicited items that have been brought to the committee at staff's doing that were not necessarily items that had been identified by the committee to be included on the work plan. Two that come to mind are the animal control bylaw and the outdoor burn permit. Neither of those were indicated as a work plan item on the 2020 RAC work plan, but both of those sort of unsolicited requests were brought because staff sought the input from the rural community. So it's important to remember, you know, if there are a dozen items, and I'm just pulling a number out of thin air here, but if there are a dozen items listed on a work plan, that's not all that's coming to the committee. So when we get to this point next year and we're doing the review of the work plan for what's happened this year, I expect that there will be things that were brought forward that were not necessarily included on the work plan, because as items arise for staff are being much more proactive than they have been in past iterations of this committee at bringing those information reports to the committee to seek the advice of the Rural Advisory Committee.
Thank you for mentioning that, because it's something that I've realized since I've been on the committee since late 2014. And this is something that has been very remarkable in those years for me was now people are coming to us, right? Like there is interest in having conversations with us. And I think that that has merit in itself, and it's very smooth. The flexibility is very appreciated, because if we didn't have that flexibility, and it would be a rigid committee, then we might not be able to welcome all of these very fruitful conversations. So I personally feel very pleased and happy to see how this committee has progressed, at least from my short-lived experience since 2014, which I can see quite some meaningful progress in the way that City has consistently advocated on our behalf to bring staff to us so that we can have these conversations in a very smooth way, in a way that is very difficult for us to see, because all of that behind the scene work is done by staff that have incredible expertise in making that happen while taking no credit. So I do want to recognize all of this work that's been done. Certainly it is remarkable to me, maybe because I saw the 2014 iteration where it was a little bit more difficult to get people to us. And I'm hoping that we can keep that momentum going and keep the conversation relevant. And I think this is where Allison hit the spot for me when she says, you know, economic development. That's it. That is a really important conversation. And I think the Smart Kingston, the broadband, I think the 2021 work plan is a really good one, but I am biased and subjective on this matter. So yeah, I do want to give thanks, Janet, to your team, Julia, Elizabeth, anyone from the city. I do want to give thanks for this great report card in 2020, despite the exceptionally difficult year of COVID, and hoping that 2021 will roll up our sleeves and get our hands deep into very meaningful conversations. Anyone else? I feel like this is a very fruitful conversation in having a retrospection on our work. And I think this is very valuable, at least for myself, for reflection. And as we move forward, knowing that we have 6 months to go, and then we have another work plan to discuss. Councillor Sharaf, please.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Chair. Just one question I have, and maybe for Janet too, does this committee ever go into in camera, or that's not what we can do?
In my memory, through you, Madam Chair, to you, Councillor Ostroff, in my memory, there has never been a need for this committee to go into closed session.
Okay, but it is possible. Every committee can.
Yes, they would have to meet one of the criteria set out in the Municipal Act.
Okay, I'll find out what that is. I'm just curious. Okay, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for the conversation. I really appreciated being able to dig a little bit deeper on not only the governance structure, on how conversation happens between us and council and the role of staff in that, which is an extremely important role in making things happen in a way that we have no idea. But I do want to move forward on the agenda, which is ultimately going through number 8. We have no motions. There are no notices of motion. There are no other business except perhaps congratulations to John for a very important exam, probably the most important exam of your life that you had to write in May. So just wanted to send congratulations to John for this very important exam. Did you receive your results?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was actually the bar exams that I wrote in November. And so then in May 21st, I was licensed as a lawyer.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was a ridiculously difficult ride.
Yeah, I recalled May being a very important date. I just couldn't recall if it was the writing or the results. So congratulations. This is a fantastic milestone.
Thank you kindly. These guys didn't make it any easier. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. And Julia, yes, please.
Just ensuring, I believe we did, but we did a vote of the committee on the report card. I got John and Charles as first and second, and we did get the vote to carry, correct?
Yes, I confirm.
Perfect.
Do you want us to show all hands again, just for proof of visual?
We can, yeah.
Okay, everyone, all those in favor, please show your hand. Motion carried forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. There are no correspondences. The date of the next meeting is September 22nd. It will be chaired by Councillor Usharoff. So another big news is I am pregnant and my due date is September 23rd. You would see it if you were here.
That's awesome.
So that is why I was like, I should give my regrets right away for September 22nd, because I might not be there, but let's not take a risk. So Councillor Usharoff, you will be chairing this meeting. Thank you.
I'm happy to do that for you. And I'm going to be a grandpa and first-time grandfather in August. So that's going to be an exciting time for all of us.
Oh, congratulations. Well, I'll send thoughts your way, and then in September, you can return those thoughts.
Oh, certainly so. Very exciting. Good for you.
Yeah, perfect. So this is it, adjournment. So I believe for adjournment, we do need a motion. Do we, Julia? I think I'm a little rusty.
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect. So can I have someone to pass a motion of adjournment? Allison, thank you. And to second it, second it. John, thank you. All those in favor, please show your hand. Excellent. Thank you very much. And take care, and I'll send news in September.
Very best of luck.
Thank you.
All the best, everybody.
Congratulations, Jose, and to you, Gary.
Thank you. Bye.